It's low tide at this popular stretch of beach at Manly on Sydney's coast.
As you can see, the panels have the colour of sandstone.
I've come to meet up with marine biologist Mariana Meyer-Pinto, who's showing me these specially designed panels that are helping the environment in a big way.
This is the kind of stuff, when you look at it, this is like a super important limpet. These guys, they may not seem that much, but they are actually super important.
Set up around Australia since 2018, these so-called living seawalls have created a habitat for tiny creatures and marine plant life. You might not notice these small players, but they play a big role in the broader ecosystem.
It's all part of the food chain, right? You can't have the big things without the small things, so it always adds up.
When the tide is high, the underwater landscape around these panels is buzzing with activity.
We see a lot of oysters. They really clean the water. They are super important. And they themselves also provide habitat for a lot of other animals and seaweeds. We see lots of grazing gastropods that you see around the rocky shores. We see crabs. We see many species of seaweed.
Seawalls built around city harbours are too flat for marine life to colonise, and that's where the living seawalls come in.
Infrastructure like seawalls and piles, they really don't support as much biodiversity as natural rocky shores or natural habitats. They don't have the protection like the nooks and crannies that animals and seaweeds need to grow, to establish and grow.
Over in Melbourne, moulds for the panels are 3D printed and then filled with concrete and sometimes oyster shells.
Using oyster shells is a really great way to attract other oysters to the surface of the products. However, we've also found that just plain concrete is also really effective as well.
Industrial designer Alex Goad previously created artificial reefs and was brought onto the project to help create the panels. It's art meets science, the researchers' knowledge of underwater habitats informing the designs.
We have designs like rock pools which retain water when the tide goes down. We have an oyster panel which is designed to replicate that sort of oyster complexity that we find on a lot of the seawalls in Sydney.
We come up with the idea and he makes it pretty. No one wants to look at ugly things, no matter how good they are for the environment.
Pretty enough to have been featured in the Design Museum of London. A collaboration between scientists at UNSW and Macquarie University, they're easy to install and are built to last 20 years. Another wall went in at Watson's Bay recently.
So at the moment, the living seawall panels are essentially just bolted to a wall. And that's just a process of sort of drilling into a wall and bolting everything up.
By world standards, Sydney Harbour is regarded as being in overall good health. Earlier this year, a humpback whale caused a spectacle after getting a little lost and had to be escorted back to the ocean.
The whale just came in, perhaps had a look around, some food, and then had a rest and then went back out again. I think it's a good sign.
Long-time marine biologist Pat Hutchings believes the living seawalls have lots of potential to maintain the harbour's health.
I'd like to see more of them, but I also like to see it being endorsed on a larger scale so that when they're building a new marina, they take this into account.
The panels have been picked up around the world, including in Boston, Singapore, Sweden and Plymouth in the UK.
Plymouth is actually one of the nicest examples we have because it's super successful. And if you see the photos, it's actually quite cool because you can only see the seaweed on the panels. So it really needed just a little help so it could establish and grow and thrive.
And there have been global accolades.
You are leaders in the greatest endeavour of our time, the urgent work to repair our planet.
including as a finalist in the 2021 Earthshot Prize.
Living Seawalls from Australia.
And in September, the project won Australia's prestigious Eureka Prize.
You know, I think the beauty of Living Seawalls is that it's a really simple approach. People understand it. You add protective spaces, the marine life comes.
It was quite unexpected, I have to say. We were not really expecting to win because we were running against amazing research. We are strongly believers of evidence-based solutions rather than just greenwashing. So for us to be recognized by our science peers, it's super important.
The Living Seawalls are a small part of a bigger harbour project aimed at restoring seagrass and native fish. And the researchers say there's still much more to do.
When people think of the marine environment, they actually tend to think of like pristine coral reefs. But the reality is the majority of people actually experience the marine environment in a highly modified environment like Sydney Harbour and other harbours in the world. So we really do need to protect those. And they're extremely important for us, but also for all the wildlife that depends on them.